All right, hello everybody. I am going to be presenting on the Barash Sachs Global Economic Solidarity reading. Um, so this article is a call to Western governments and big business to um, face the poverty and um, hunger situation in Africa. So the author starts off um, claiming that poverty could be scientifically ended in Africa by the year 2025, which right now is looking very grim. I'm not sure when this article was made, but I think that prediction might be a little bit too early now. He also states that the U.S. military spending was about 600 billion per year, um, and the spending that went towards African development was about 1/100th of that. It's a pretty staggering number. Um, 1/6 of the world live in extreme poverty, which is about 1 billion of the 6.6 billion people here on Earth. But there is hope. Globalization, the spread of technology, um, free trade, and the availability to resources is increasing and helping the extremely impoverished. However, Africa is lagging behind in a couple of things. The main thing would be life life expectancy at birth. Um, in 1960, 150 countries had a life expectancy of under 60 years, and in 2004, 47 countries had a life expectancy of 60 years. Of those 47 countries in 2004, 42 of them were countries in Africa. And life expectancy in Africa is about 20 years below the rest of the world. So, reading this article, I found that there was about 5 problems that Africa has and needs to correct in order to um, kind of raise themselves up from poverty. The first is low food production. This is caused by drought. Sub-Saharan Africa is obviously a desert. Lots of there's not a lot of rivers. Also, there's not a lot of fertilization. Um, Fertilizer is not used as it is in the United States. It's too expensive, too hard to get in Africa. So crops are a lot less fertile. And crop rotation is not used because there's not enough farmland or people do not have enough time um, to kind of let the ground re um, refertilize over time like it naturally does. The second problem is disease. Tropical diseases like malaria, um, diarrhea, and dysentery are very common in most of Africa, and medication um, is not common. Um, bad infrastructure is as well a problem. Under colonial rule, from when the from European countries owning most of Africa in the 17 and 1800s and up in the 1900s, um, there was not a good foundation of infrastructure established. So there's no roads, telephone lines, electricity, water lines, and what there are, or when there are infrastructure, is crumbling. Population is another problem. It has a growing population. Most families or most mothers have 6 children or more, especially in poorer regions because of the likelihood that children will die at birth. Um, and the fertility rate is so high. These people don't have contraception, education in order to, you know, uh, not just have a ton of babies. And um, and yeah, so these people want to have big families. They need to have agriculture, and they need to farm their own food. They need to do everything, so they need to have big families to support all of their work. Um, Now, this isn't in the reading, but it was something that I could relate to from a book that I read in another class. Um, the book is called The Bottom Billion by Paul Courier, um, and it is like a national security type book, but it highlights some things. And he says that every country or every underdeveloped country or every country at risk has at least one problem with it out of four problems, and he calls them the traps. So Africa, I've seen by reading this article, is suffering from the bad governance trap that's stemming from the corruption, and also the natural resource trap. It is possible for Africa to come out of this. Um, all of these traps can be worked on and grown out of, but it will take time. And how will we do that? The first is rich countries need to um, band together and give to Africa, help incorporate them, to help globalize them. Um, a statistic from the article is that it would only take about 2% of the top 100 or top 1,000 billionaires' income. Um, so yeah, that is a small number. We wouldn't get any to Africa, obviously, um, but also $70 per person um, from every rich country. Um, that would do great things for the African economy. Also, the spread of technology, like insecticides, malaria medicine, fertilizers, land management, education, water management, education, satellite dishes, internet lines, education, more food, and contraception would do great things for the African people. And also, the article talks about how they should adopt a Nordic style healthcare system, which I don't know too much about, but it's in the article and that's important. So there's three discussion questions that I'd like you guys to um, answer. The first is charity the best way to kickstart the African economy? Um, Now, what I mean by this is not just give the African people food, all this food, um, money, education, all this stuff, or should we kind of establish an infrastructure in Africa in order for them to buy and produce their own? So we give them the education in order for them to become self-sufficient or self-sustaining. The second question is theoretically, if you have control of all of the money in rich countries, how would you allocate the money to Africa? And the third, out of the five major African problems, this was from the third slide, rank them from 1 to 5, with 1 being the most important and 5 being the least important. All right, that's all I have for you. Thank you.